few years ago, I demonstrated a pipeline that allows importing Genshin Impact character models into Unreal Engine quickly. The pipeline also works with character models from other game titles. Now, let's take a look at what it takes to get some animation going. I am not an animator, so we will need to find some animations and do the necessary processing to get them to work. In this case, we need retargeting, and I'll use some animations from the game animation sample project from Epic Games. With the retargeter set up, the animation seems to translate over quite nicely. However, there seems to be some tuning required for characters that have significant differences in proportions. Next, we need to create the motion matching setup that's similar to the game animation sample project. I'll be changing a few things with the implementation to support my needs. One main change is having context-aware state transitions, so I don't need to make a new function for each state transition. One function can handle all state transitions. Swimming and climbing was functionally working in a previous iteration, but I've decided to migrate from character movement component to mover 2.0, which broke everything, so I will need to fix those movement modes. The animation blueprint setup consists of a state machine. As a state machine transitions to another state, it will call into a chooser table with context on the state machine. Then, the chooser table will output a list of qualifying animations that we can then run through motion matching, which gives us the chosen asset and start time. Then, we push the animation onto the blend stack. With this setup, the animation system begins to behave similar to the game animation sample project. Due to the differences between character skeletons for Genshin Impact characters, animations done on one character do not transfer to other characters easily. The combination of retargeting and backwards solving is necessary for high-fidelity animations across characters. It's possible to use live retargeting to get around some of these constraints. It's a route that I explored for a bit and have decided to go with fully authored animations because for a game like Genshin Impact, I would consider live retargeting good enough for NPCs, but not good enough for playable characters. Since we don't have any combat animations, we'll assume that we need to handle authoring our own animations and bringing them into Engine. To accomplish this, a rig is needed. I originally started off with a naive rig implementation. However, I've now moved on to a V2 rig that has better pull vector handling, arm twist handling, and is running on modular rig. The rig is also set up to fully backwards solve so that fully baked animations can be brought back onto the rig for further animation work. The rig has IK-FK switching for the arms, legs, and head. It also generates controls for each morph target on the skeletal mesh. I attempted to do some left-right detection for the morph targets, but there's too much inconsistency in the naming of these curves to reliably set up the curve controls programmatically. A client that I am working with has an animation browser utility built on the editor utility widget. I made my own variation to handle management of the animations for this toy project, as the number of animation assets is already getting quite large. It allows me to open animation sequences for editing, slicing for export, and quick toggles for common parameters on the asset from a single window. To get an attack animation, I'll need to author one from scratch. I set up a 5-sequence combo that should feel similar to how Yoimiya attacks in Genshin Impact. Nothing fancy, but it should be enough to put my rig to the test.